Because these children are bought cheap from their parents, they are often abused and molested. Their slave masters have little or no respect for their dignity. President of Challenging Heights, James Kofi Annan, who has been pioneering the rescue of children trafficked on the Volta Lake, shares the chilling story of a 13-year-old boy who works 15 hours a day and is sexually abused by other male colleagues after close of day. Sex is what the recruiters use to trap the children from escaping from their servitude.
Okay, this is a boy that we rescued from Lake Volta who had worked there for about 5 years and has worked on the average about 15 hours a day. He worked day and night, and if he's lucky, eats twice a day. He doesn't go to school, he doesn't have access to medical care. When he's sick, he's either left to rot or survive to work again. This is a boy who, apart from all these abuse, is also sexually abused by the older boys in the company where he's working.
How old is he and how old are these older boys?
This is a boy who is 13 years old and has worked on the lake for 5 years.
What's the motivation for these older boys sexually abusing him?
Usually, these boys are working there and they become sexually sexually active. Adolescent issues that you know of. So they look for outlets for their sexual urges, and therefore, if they don't have any outlet, then they fall on these boys and they seduce them or they sodomize them. So, and this is a story that is very common amongst these children over on the lake, and that is why I was saying that these fishermen, when they see that the boys are older and they are strong, they want to run away, they go and recruit girls for them in order to sexually motivate them. See?
Samson Kojo is the assembly member of Ayetepa, once trafficked and forced to work as a child slave on the Volta Lake. Samson says he fought his way to freedom, albeit without weapons.
Early time of my child education, I was sent to Akusumu by one of my nephew, but then I was at 8 years, whereby my mother gave me to them that they should send me to Akusumu simply because she has no money to care for me. So they sent me to Akusumu. We were there for 20 years before they brought me back. In fact, during our staying over there, what we were doing is casting rope. And then when we cast the rope at times you get to trap us down. So they let me go down into the sea, to the water, to go and remove the rope over there. In fact, a lot of challenges goes over there. And when we are there too, what normally the elders try to do is, I thought they may use the paddle to beat you here and there, which is very bad. Up to some extent, I realized that the situation in which I'm passing will not help me.
No child deserves enslavement, but that's what people Samson considered a family put him through. He was mostly given mashed fish as meal and was beaten with the paddle of a canoe if he dared complain. It was a life of misery. He had no voice.
When it is time for us to go to fishing like this, whereas you are a child, early at dawn, they will come and wake up you that go and collect the fishing material so that you go to the fishing. In fact, if you are not able to equip with the things, the elders will come and they will whip you with any kind of thing they come across, which is very, very, very bad. At times when you go to, they will mash some of the small fishes for you that you should take it, which is very also bad.
The plight of these slaves of the Volta is terrifying. Often the children are forced to dive deep to untangle nets stuck around tree stumps. Some of them get stuck and die. The body is left to rot. The decomposed body attracts a lot of fish, which the slave master would return after days to harvest. This is a horror the Ayetepa assemblyman has not been able to shake off, and what is etched on his memory is the death of his best friend when a storm arose on the lake. His life was snatched from him, never to be seen again.
Once you are a child, you have nothing to say because that's the treatment they have been given to you. That is your mother who gave you to them that they should come and treat you. So you have nothing to say at that time. You are only there up to time when they will bring you back to home. So we have nothing at that time to be saying.
So, but this was someone who was related to you. Why was he treating you badly? This was your nephew.
It's the nature of their work they have been doing over there. No matter what you become a nephew or someone else, that's their nature they have been doing over there. They will maltreat you anyhow they like.
And I want to understand the picture. I understand that sometimes some of the children die over there. Whilst you were there, did you encounter an experience where a colleague of yours who you were working with died whilst working on the Volta Lake?
Yes, it happens a lot because at times when you go to the fishing land, the storm arose. And when the storm arose like this, if you are not able to come out there with the storm will capsize you over there, you may get drowned. So when you are drowned, you cannot come out and you are off. So a lot of deaths occur over there.
Do you have a friend who died whilst you were there?
Oh, I have many friends. Some of my colleagues who are fancies, plenty of them die over there. Even one time we were there and the boat capsized on the sea and we were being called at on the land that we should come to their aid. Before we reached there, plenty of the boys have died.
Which of them, which of these friends or colleagues, when you kind of remember him, you feel like I'm still hurt, I'm still pained by his death?
Oh, one of my best friends at that time, which up to this time I feel that if that boy is with me, my life will be comfortable, is Kwesi Apia, who is now no more. In fact, during those days, he is a good guy. He's a good guy to me, but once he has passed, I always remember him.
According to the International Justice Mission baseline study, there isn't a single child working on the Volta Lake who hasn't witnessed another child losing his life while untangling a net. It's a dreadful picture they carry on their young minds. Ken Christie seems to understand what the assembly member of Ayetepa had been through.
They're typically asked to do the most hazardous work. Volta Lake, of course, is a man-made lake, and when it was made, it was jungle, and so now there is a submerged jungle under the lake. And the fishing nets will frequently get caught in the old dead trees under the lake. And the young boys are made to swim down, dive into the murky waters of Volta Lake to untangle the nets. And it is not uncommon for those boys themselves to get tangled in those same nets and to drown. When we conducted our baseline study, there wasn't a single child that we interviewed for that study that had been trafficked to the lake that hadn't witnessed another child drowning, a friend, a co-worker drowning on the lake.
But for Samson, the pain of the loss of his friend on the lake is worsened by the fact that he had no opportunity to go to school while he worked as a slave. It's a blight on his dreams. Samson sought to change this situation. He went to class 2 when he was 27 years. He recounted the days of heckling by his young mates, the little men and women of primary school too, who considered him a giant.
Oh, once I know what is our plan ahead, I didn't feel shy of being with a small child or small children in the classroom because I know what I'm after. That's why I mingle with them and then be able to pass through. So I don't feel shy of mingle with a small children in the classroom.
How challenging was it for you starting at the basics, given the fact that you've never had an opportunity to read and write? How challenging was it for you?
It is a big challenge But the reason why I get it is simply and start at the class stories. I had a brother in my home who is by then class 6, and he is educating me at home. So I'm able to pass through reading ABC and then getting reading of 1, 2, 3 up to 100. So as I came to the school for my first day at school, the head teacher made that examination on me, and I'm able to pass reading the ABCD. So she said, oh, once I'm able to pass through all those things, she has to send me into class 2.
Many Ghanaian children are trafficked to work in the fishing industry, carrying out hazardous tasks. Child labor and child trafficking are very common in Ghana's fishing industry. Each year, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, reports numerous deaths of children who have been trafficked to perform hazardous labor in the Volta Lake. As Hotline moves through these fishing communities, we discover many more people who have survived the painful experience of being child slaves on the Volta. Former PTA chairman of Ayetepa JHS, John Obodai, was also trafficked to work on the Volta Lake when he was 8 years old. He is still haunted by his days on the lake, especially his close shave with death.
We do catch net and ropes, and it may hook under, maybe far about 12 feet and over, 24, 25 and over. But they'll force you to go down there to remove the net, and many people died in that event. But since it's that work they use you to use, you choose, you have nothing to do, you by all means do it by force. It's not your wish, but as is the work that they send you, you have to do. So we normally do it, and by God's grace, some people died, by God's grace we are alive.
What would you say was your worst experience?
My worst experience, going under the sea, going under the river, it's not good. It's not good. That is my worst experience I saw. So I'm pleading for people that they should stop that going under the sea, under the river, for removing the nets and the ropes.
Give us a mental picture. When you go under the Volta Lake, what's the feeling like? How do you feel below the water? How do you feel?
When you went there, then you have no ability to prevent yourself. Maybe the hook can hook you under it, so when you can't cut it with your teeth, then you remain there. So it's a bad feeling there.
Was there a point where you felt like you were dying below the lake?
In fact, I went there one day and I was hooked by hook, and I spent there more than 1 hour before they realized that I'm not coming, and then one of my brother jumped on me, and they come before he released me. In fact, not because some of my brother that came back to visit us. Then by this time, I've known that I'm not alive.
John tells me it's still difficult to accept his experience. The best of his years were wasted on the lake. He realized how much he had lost after spending 27 years of his life on the lake.
Sometimes they don't give anything, but they can hire you. Then if you go camps, then anything that they deserve, they'll be give to you.
So in your case, what was given in return?
Oh, sometimes for the whole year. In my times, for the whole year, they give about 300 Ghana cedi, 3 million.
So how many years did you spend on the Volta Lake?
Oh, I spent about 25 years.
And all those 25 years, you weren't given the opportunity to have no access to education.
Of course. of course.
So at what point in time did you start education? At what age did you start schooling?
I start about 27 years of age, which I start education.
And which class did you start at?
I start at class 2. Class 2.
For you, how difficult was it starting 27 years, starting class 2? Many people wouldn't do that. How was it for you? How difficult was it for you?
To my opportunity that to attend this, it was one of my brother who exhorted me, I'm foolish, I'm a fisherman. That make me bold to come and started. So when I started, people are laughing at me, but because of that insult that he insulted me. So after closing, I'll wait and everybody will go home before I went back. So because of some time, I'll remove my school uniform before I'll go home.
I have come to the Volta Lake. It's the biggest man-made lake in Africa. I see a number of little boys either sitting or standing in the canoes, sitting on the lake. Their jobs are to dive to untangle nets, scoop water from the canoes, or help to drag nets. Many of them are hungry and malnourished. They have already spent hours on the lake. The marks on the skins of some of them are a reflection of the dangers they fought in untangling nets in the water. The hope of a better life for each of these children keeps fading by the day. It's worrying when you consider the fact that Ghana was the first country in the world to ratify the Convention on Rights of the Child. Today, the country still faces severe problems with child trafficking. The reason these parents give for selling their children is to help alleviate family poverty. Professor Pt.2 of the Economics Department of the University of Ghana again.
Poverty is driven by the kind of economic activity you find. In the national capital, you find some areas where people don't have economic activities that will generate needed income. Whereas you could find in other parts of the country where you could farm, you could mine, be it legal or illegally. So the distribution of the natural resources also drives the way poverty is distributed within the country. So it's not difficult to find that in Accra, you have the richest and you also have the poorest.
At a media partnership workshop organized by civil society organizations, ASELA and Panos Africa, to train journalists on issues bordering on migration, former Interior Minister Prosper Bani touched on the subject of human trafficking. According to him, government had established an interministerial committee to deal with the issue, but its presence is yet to be felt.
Aware of that, government has set up an interministerial committee of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Ministry of Labor and Labor Relations, to begin to look at how to minimize the potential for our people being trafficked for undesirable work. And indeed, the president has thought it wise that such an engagement is so important that he has appointed a national coordinator for anti-human trafficking.
According to statistics from the UNICEF, human trafficking is rated as the world's third most profitable illegal business, apart from the trade in drugs and illegal weapons. Ghana cannot be entirely ascribed to a lack of formal legal provisions. However, trafficking is prevalent, and one major reason is that laws are not properly enforced. But why are the laws designed to combat trafficking in Ghana not adequately enforced? Ken Christie again.
We're frequently asked why this problem is so hard to solve, why it won't go away. And there have been many, many good organizations working on this issue in the lake for more than 10 years. And most of them are involved in prevention work, trying to build community awareness. Many have done rescues, but the problem is that those rescues have not resulted in arrests and prosecutions and convictions. And so right now, if you were to go onto the lake and talk to the boat masters or the slave owners, they would tell you openly exactly what they're doing because they've done it with impunity for years and years. They have no fear at all of going to jail for trafficking and exploiting the youngest children. And it's the one piece that's been missing on the lake from the beginning of this problem is effective law enforcement. Ghana has excellent anti-trafficking law. It's world class. So what Ghana lacks has not been laws and good laws. What Ghana has lacked is law enforcement to protect the children on the lake.
It's clear the problem is not about only the lack of enforcement of the law by the institutions. It's also about the poor distribution of resources. Professor Pt.2 believes that's the way to deal with the situation.
Basically through redistribution. Redistribution in the sense that government can tax those high-income earners and support the low-income or the less privileged. So things like the LEAP, for instance, is one way of supporting them. The LEAP has been one of the very successful programs, I must admit. Evaluation that we have done shows clearly that the LEAP has been well targeted. So perhaps an expansion of the LEAP would be very good. Other support programs have often been colored with party colors, they might be party colors, so they've not been successful. Palms card and all the other things, but LEAP has been successful. So if you could look at the LEAP model and try to target the vulnerable, the excluded, the very poor, I think that will go a long way to alleviate people's suffering.
Back at the village, all Sarah needs is support from government to start a trade to enable her take care of her children.
Na akra no ba me mrehwe no kakra kakra epese omo ye miensa nti mienu de omo ko na we de ontimi nkobi afi na me ye mboase onu de obetimi akona mienu de omo ko kakra kakra nso adwuma no nye.
Samson, who spent 27 years as a diver on the lake, and John, who also spent the best part of his year in the same area, say parents in such communities must be wise and not sell off their children.
We have many people in the community still who are having their awards at the Kosomo Lakes and still working very well. In fact, we are speaking to the community that those who have their awards over there should bring them down so that and they will all start their education as early as possible so that in the near future we have a bright corner. In fact, about 4 years ago, we heard that the child labor traffic people have caught some people at the Volta Lake, which they sent them to Accra. In fact, a friend of mine had a child inside and was then sent them. So we're speaking to the community that those who have the child now should stop such practices.
The laws must work. Resources must be redistributed. Social interventions aimed at reducing poverty, such as LEAP, should be extended to these areas to dissuade mothers from selling their children as slaves on the Volta. For Hotline documentary, this has been Pt.2.
I'll be a slave. I'll be buried in my grave and go home